snap. I think it's another brief moment in time when we get to see the change of the tides. The shifted, twisted bit technology showcasing the little bits of safety, while the quick trips are surely randomly sparking the photons around me. Let the light flow from the heat, yo. When the photons ignite, highlighting, yo, then you know it's that time when we force a change in tides. A little bit lined with something in us. It's almost like we something else, autonomous, or maybe perhaps it's that missing piece you needin'. Perhaps it's that simple message you searching. Perhaps it's just a different time framing us for the next adventure in the mainframe. Getting excited, so are the photons. Don't laminate so we can change the coupon. Let me raise the hash rate, submit the coupon fake, and reduce the rate while we mine our major bags. Crypto technology like cryptographic money will hashing your life into a set of QRs. It doesn't matter cause it's time for 3D changes perspectives. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show.
That's right, everybody. Welcome to the show. It is me, 3D, and I'm here to hopefully change your perspective, well, about XMR and the proofs. That's right. So today we are going to be talking about the proofs. Now, this is kind of how privacy is preserved before it even gets on chain. That's the simplest way to describe what we're going to cover today, but it does get more complicated than that. You'll see that I'm not moving. I do apologize. We have dropped down to a minimal amount of stuff because we're on a backup server running. The main computer has fallen, and that's fine because we are still trying to bring this to you any way we can. And now we're going to go ahead and thank today's network partnerships and sponsors. So I want to thank The Organized for teaming up with Bitcoin Live Digital Broadcasting DB, because Bitcoin Live DB and The Organized is a powerhouse combo. I do see new heights for both organizations. Now, if you haven't checked out any of these De-organized early morning broadcasts for stocks and other topics that seem to be taking off with every morning, every single day, with new viewers and more viewers, we'll check them out on X, Twitter, anywhere that you might be viewing this right here. So I do want to thank today's sponsor. Let's see if I can get that pulled up real fast. Boom. That's right. I want to thank Shieldfolio for sponsoring today's episode from within a quantum bit, as well as the Bitcoin Live DB network. Now, if you haven't actually tried a Shieldfolio or seen a Shieldfolio, they're like a little black book that are made from stone. So it's like stone paper. And they are fade resistant, tear resistant, and even water resistant. So you know the info and secrets you store in your Shieldfolio will survive and last whatever you throw at it. Like, I personally have a Shieldfolio, and I use it for like my website, info, contacts, crypto keys, and among other things. These are like little black books that are pocket sized to be ready by your side, regardless of your adventure in real life or online. And that really is the kind of the point of it. It is a little black book for you, and it does test time. And I actually do use this for multiple different like things that we use online and offline. You can also use it for like your contacts and stuff like that. It really is a little black book that gets you where you need to go. And so now let's roll in with the roll-ins and get started with today's episode. Awesome. Thank you again, Shieldfolio, for sponsoring today's episode. Okay. Welcome to the Photon of the Greater Fourth Dimensions Quantum Machine. Now, before we get anywhere, we have a way of doing things here. So if you haven't been here before, let me just go ahead and bring this up. So basically, the way we do everything is we're going to go through all these different websites, and we're going to have this little QR. So this QR is going to pop up whenever it is anything new or any place we go to. If there is a way to view it online, this QR will pop up. Just go ahead and scan it with your phone or QR viewer or OCR, and allow it to take you there, either while we're playing, while this is playing, so you can follow along, or after the fact, after the show, so you can go ahead and get more info. Now, if you want to go ahead and get the direct link, you can go to YouTube and it should already be in the description for you, all the links that we're going to use for today's episode. And this is the organized media. These people we were talking about earlier. And they do morning live shows. They have stuff going on like crazy. They're constantly busy. Huge group of people. Go check them out. So today's free pre-search query, because we've been doing this for a while now, is, well, how does Dandelion ++ and Bulletproofs work together, XMR? Like always, I did not use this query in today's episode research, but that doesn't mean we won't have some overlapping links. If anything about today's episode interests you, this free pre-search query should help you find more to help you out. Just replay after the show and scan the QR on your screen with your phone, a QR reader, or OCR to get this query link to jumpstart your next rabbit hole. Alright. So, let me catch you up real fast. Okay, so the very first episode, we went over a quick dive of Monero XMR because it's such a confusing blockchain. Then the last episode, we kind of began diving with XMR. We went into its past and uncovered some of the problems of the past, but also we covered the way the difficulty is determined in XMR. So today we are going to cover basically parts of XMR I call the proofs check. We are going to cover what are basically proofs in Monero blockchain, but they also will, this is also how they propagate to the chain, and I do believe this may have been used elsewhere, but not to the extreme that XMR does with Dandelion plus specifically. So the two main things we're going to be end up talking about is Bulletproofs and Dandelion ++. So let's go ahead and get back into it and see what's up. So our first link is going to be a Get Monero link. So it's pretty good, and it says here, Bulletproofs Basics. RingCT was introduced to obfuscate transaction amounts. One goal of RingCT was to prove the sum of outputs in the transaction was equal to 0, and all the outputs were positive numbers. To accomplish this, two kind of ring signatures were constructed. One ring signature for the whole transaction to prove the sum is 0, and a set of ring signatures for the subsets of transaction bits to prove the outputs are positive numbers. Then combined together, they usually snore signatures later replaced with Bowman ring signature. Okay, so while it does the job, the big drawback was the huge size of a ring CT transaction. Much more information being put in there. So in 2017, a Stanford applied crypto group wrote a paper presenting a new kind of range proofs called Bulletproofs. Bulletproofs are short, non-interactive, zero-knowledge proofs that require no trusted setup. Bulletproofs, unlike Bowman and Schnorr signatures, are efficient at range proofs. Proving a big set of data only generates a small proof, so the size of the proof grows logarithmically, and this is one that I think gets a lot of people. When you hear logarithmically, it's kind of steady. It's kind of like a steady growth, but it can be very slow or very fast. When you hear exponentially, it's only fast, and I think that's kind of the point here. If this was exponential growth, that would be a problem. I mean, that kind of was the problem with Bowman and Schnorr, is it was more exponential growth versus logarithmic growth. So it's very nice to see that they were able to reduce the amount of size needed per extra bit. So with the size of data being proved. So it means that increasing the number of outputs in a transaction will, with Bulletproofs, only slightly increase the size of the proof. Bulletproofs have the disadvantage. Bulletproofs have the advantage to allow to prove that multiple committed amounts are in the desired range at once. No need to prove each output to each destination in separate proofs. The whole transaction amounts could be proven in one bigger but very small bulletproof. So throughout the audit process and implementation, as bulletproofs really were new, in the initial implementation made by the group, while thoroughly done, needed a rewrite focused on a specific use case. Implementing bulletproof in a Monero was not a simple thing. The code had been written and rewritten to follow the new version of bulletproofs, which was still being developed. But once this Monero implementation was finalized, the resulting development should be taken with extreme care. So therefore, the community started an auditing process. Researchers reached out to these people. Well, I'm going to try to say it. Benedict Bunz. I'm still sure I said that wrong. I'm pretty sure I said his last name wrong. Lead author of the Bulletproof paper, and the OSTIF organization, which helps open source technologies to improve and secure themselves. The OSTIF directed the group to several organizations with skills required to perform the audit, while one of them was asked to keep unnamed and was therefore put away from the process that needed to be public. That's a little bit strange, right? So one of them was asked to be left unnamed and was therefore put away from the process that needed to be public. So they were still used, just not in the public stuff. Two others, Course Labs and Quick Steel Security, were chosen to conduct the audit. Our 3 auditors were funded by the community to ensure that the implementation did not contain any critical bugs or exploits. The final reports were released during the summer of 2018, with several useful corrections and fixes suggested. And the Bulletproof implementation has been added to the first Monero Stagnet, and then was in the main Monero network in October 2018 upgrade. Since the Bulletproof deployment, the size of an average transaction has dropped 80%, as well as transaction fees. Alright. What that really means is we're taking however many signatures are in the ring, which back then I believe it was 6, or up to 6. Now I believe it's like 9 or 13. And it reduces it down to a single proof. So what we were doing was they would do a proof that proved the whole thing was even, meaning you took all the sums of what you have, of the transactions you have, and it equals 0. And that's used to be done in a fun way, right? Like they were just kind of explaining the other signatures. It caused quite a large transaction proof to do that, and not just that one, but like specifically the next one. But both of them were quite large. So Bulletproof, it kind of reduces what we're actually looking at to verify. The best way I like to describe it is, imagine an API that no one determines, but the Bulletproof determines it, right? So that's what you're actually verifying is the API like it should be, 010101 or whatever it might be. And the reason why they say it's logarithmically is stop that cat. The reason why they have a logarithmic scale is because the API can handle, basically like the API, if you imagine it like this, each spot in the API handles quite a bit of data possibilities. And a lot of times it's like, what's the difference between set A of data and set B of data? And that's what the API really is. So we're not going to get into the real details of Bulletproofs, but if you get this idea that it's taking like 6 or more things and turning it into one thing, it's probably the best way to look at it. So, let me get you that keyword one more time. So Bulletproofs basically just allows your ring signature to have better scalability and, believe it or not, more privacy. Because one of the things they pointed out Bulletproof is non-interactive, zero knowledge proof. So it has no information about whatever it is it's proving, which is really cool. Okay. So now, oh wait, hold on, let me make sure I didn't have any notes on this topic. Some of these, okay, so, oh, I did. So bulletproofs allows us to take some garbage data that is dynamically formed from our data using a standard way to manipulate the proof for verification, a specifically generic proof system. So this allows one longer proof to show the total in amount is 0, while each smaller connected signature are proofs for individual transactions. So this allows this method can handle both proof types, simplifying proofs for the currency. So bulletproofs are simplified proofs without data, but can be used still to verify small amounts of information. Okay. I actually think I had it written better there than the way I said it. Oh, I should have just read it there. Alright. So we're basically going to go on to the next thing. So in here we want to read a couple of sections. Let me get to it. Because as we see here, like, what is Monero? They're saying Monero here is these 4 things. But now I think this is a bit older, so it's probably not as accurate. But there's just one little thing in here we want to look at. Here it is. The 2 main criteria Monero achieves are untraceability. This means it's impossible to determine where something came from. In this instance, a transaction made using XMR, the native currency of Monero. Unlinkability. This refers to the inability to establish a connection between people involved in a transaction, or to prove various transactions were sent to the same person. So, simply to say, Monero is continuously integrated on its tech. That's a great way to see it. There haven't been any sweeping changes in terms of what Monero does and why. It's sort of tried to stay true to what it does, just keeps hammering at it. And what it does is, well, exactly this: untraceability, unlinkability. So if Bulletproof simplifies proofs to help with untraceability, then it's sort of safe to assume unlinkability has something to do with Dandelion++, which it does. But bulletproofs and ring signatures also have something to do with much of this. Yes, a major portion of what we are going to talk about next is going to be Dandelion++. It's going to be how we get most of the untraceability in Monero. Alright. Another big privacy enhancing technology added to Monero, Dandelion++. Now, keep in mind, Dandelion++ hasn't been in there forever, and literally up until like I think 6 months before Dandelion++ got actually implemented, so it would have been in like 2019, like maybe August or October or something like that. Bruh, it was like there was a flaw in the untraceability in Monero that people knew about, and some people I think some people took advantage of it, but for the most part people weren't taking advantage of it. And the U.S. government, I believe it was the U.S. government first, came out and said, we want to trace it, we want to track it, we want to be able to do this. And that it was like a year after that, like the U.S. government wanted to start tracking whatever, that the 6 month, the 2019 thing happened, which basically I think someone there was like, we need this, and I'm like, 'cause I don't remember the talk that much. I believe it's still on YouTube or something, but so let's talk about this right here, because this was a huge upgrade to Monero. This took Monero to a new standard of privacy. Alright, so the pull request which adds Dandelion++ has finally been merged. This new feature changes the way transactions are propagated to the network, making it much harder to link a transaction to an IP address. The feature is now part of the code and will be included in the next release of the Monero software. But it's already possible to test it by compiling the client software from source. And there's some instructions if you want to get there. Nowadays, we're so past this, you can just, it's already there. So be aware that to get the improved privacy, a node running Dandelion++ needs to communicate with other Dandelion++ capable nodes. I think that right there is the most important part. Dandelion++ nodes must be communicating to Dandelion++ nodes to ensure privacy. And that's a huge bit, okay? And I know, this is all you kept in. This is all you really need to know. So, when Dandelion is doing their thing, I could have sworn we had another one in here. Let's pull this one up real fast. I had another link, but I think I got mixed up. Oh yeah, there it goes. Yeah, that's right. I can't view it. But if you guys do want to learn more about Dandelion directly from the voices of the people who had to deal with it first, you can go ahead and do it yourself. I'm not able to. That was right. I forgot. I had it up for a while, and then it just, this morning, I wasn't able to read it. So, it messed up on me. Alright, but basically, all Dandelion is doing is, instead of my node directly talking to the network, my node will give my broadcasting, whatever, my node will give my hash information to another node to propagate to the network. So I don't always directly talk to the network. I also talk to Dandelion nodes in order to talk to the network. And everybody does this. And it's kind of like the same thing with the ring signature. Let me bring this up. So, like with the ring signature, how you had different signatures of different transactions, including yours, to hide your transaction in there, which we'll be talking more about ring signature later, on a different episode. Dandelion allows you to have a set of nodes you can talk to talk to the network. And so now, instead of every transaction you do going to the network, which you can still do this, you can set it up to where you never actually directly talk to the network. So the only time you are talking to the network is when another node is asking you to talk to the network for them. And so you still communicate to the network, but now, because we're not sure when something's been traded to another node to be pushed to the network first, there's always this reasonable deniability or an amount of doubt that can be used to claim that transaction was not your transaction. And when looking at Monero, it pretty much is like that. You're not going to communicate to the network with any of your transactions. Any of them. Maybe your very first couple, but that's it. And the whole idea behind that, again, is to make it to where it's pretty much guaranteed, even if the government or the law or something was to say, no, we know your node made this transaction, blah, blah, blah. Well, then we could say, well, because the way it's set up, then you know for sure it's not my transaction. If you know for sure my node did it, you know for sure it's not my transaction, because Dandelion++ is ensuring we're not directly talking to the network with our transactions. And the number of times it gets passed off to another Dandelion node, well, that can be handled in a ring signature. So I could sign a transaction hash and a additional signature that then we could wrap up and send it to a node as a single hashed signature. It gets it, it opens it, it sees, oh, I need to pass it along. It recloses it, passes it again, and it keeps happening until finally the last person checking the ring says, oh, okay, good, that's it, it's the end of the ring. Now I pass it out. And the only thing they're going to pass out is that internal signed first hash, not the ring that came with it. And so there are all sorts of different ways that they can take what we have and just scale it out and improve on it to ensure that each node individually talking to the network never communicates their own propagated transaction, and we can even say will not propagate its neighbors. So that one day would be super beautiful to have, but that's the next layer or level of pseudo-transparency, pseudo-privacy within network transactions that we could perform. But they're still not doing it that far right now. It's moves it along, it passes along. This is a very important part of the whole process. Alright, well, today's dive may not feel deep. And again, mostly that's because one of the sites I had set up, it stopped working. I don't know what happened. But there's not a whole lot really here. That's kind of the beauty of the Dandelion Trench. It is quite large, but it's not very, like, it's not as deep as the other stuff, but it's a very wide trench. Very wide. And we could discuss further on how, like, it works for different connections methods, like over Tor, and we could look into the trench for what little bit it has. But the problem is we're just going to basically be talking about similar things. You know, instead of I pass it to a node, I might need to have four jumps in Tor before I worry about trying to contact a node, or I might need to transfer to node, go through Tor, transfer to node, or do some other implication. And really, we're just talking about the same thing. Taking our transaction, signing it, getting it fully ready, handing it to somebody else to take care of the rest of it. Handing it to somebody else to take care of the rest of it. Handing it to somebody else to take care of the rest of it. And eventually someone finally actually takes care of it. And you could build a meme pool into this method where you could have like a time meme pool reference where if you sign a transaction and you send it to a Dandelion, you could send it to a Dandelion meme pool, which means like certain Dandelions will be holding a bunch of transactions to then just redistribute it to other Dandelions after a certain length of time, or after it's so many. And to ensure, and then it can be done in a way where it ensures it's not returning to its own previous sender or its own original sender. And you could do all sorts of fun stuff with just Dandelion. Like, there's a lot of extra possibilities because they are doing node-to-node communication level stuff. Like, it's literally like back to peer-to-peer communications. And for a long while, I think blockchain got away from that. Monero has figured out how to get back there. A lot of other blockchains, they use NFTs or other things to get back there. But because of the way Monero is set up, Dandelion opens up the door to possibilities that were never available before. I know, this is here to remove the linkability between your node, your transaction, and your IP, but now we have this better proof set that's smaller, that can handle things on much grander scales. We can keep the transactions quite small because of that. And now, because we're doing peer-to-peer communications about holding and releasing our own transactions, that means that it's going to be easier to do that. It's no longer going to be a chore to do that. And so, when you really think about this Dandelion Plus Plus from Monero, is, well, it opened up the opportunity for things that blockchain forgot about. You know, we used to do this thing where you talk to nodes all the time. There even used to be a time in Bitcoin where people ran websites on their node before they really, before people kind of connected the dots. Like, trust me, there were people that already knew ahead of time not to do that. But there were some people that just couldn't figure out. They really thought, well, if I sandbox my node and I sandbox my website and we have a direct connection to just the website sandbox, there's no way they can get to my node. Yeah, they can get to your private keys, though. Because your data memory between the two is the same. So, like, there's been some crazy implications, but Dandelion Plus Plus might be able to eventually allow Monero to have websites on Monero. Like, people are already talking about doing smart contracts on Monero, and they're talking about doing other things because they can because they got store signatures, they can kind of mimic Taproot in a lot of ways. And because of that, it's opened up the door to a lot more possibilities than before. And keep in mind, all the way back in like 2017, I believe it was, there was a man called Felty256 on Twitter. His account's still there, FELTY256. That's his @ on Twitter. He made an entire video game using Monero as the asset exchange, but also as the sub-currency within a video game that was already made. Like, it was a private server system MMORPG, and he basically invented a game inside of that game called Douglas Cities that would allow you to mine Monero there, okay, in the game, use that Monero there in the game, and then purchase things for the greater, grander, bigger game using Monero. And now we're just now starting to get back to that point in Monero now, thanks to Dandelion Plus Plus. Like, Felty figured out something like this, and he ran a node between the network and the people, so that way individual users on Dandelion, the cities, Dandelion cities, wouldn't propagate to the network. He propagated to the network. And that was such a great ideal that can still be done, even with Dandelion Plus Plus, for brand new things. And that's really what I wanted to get out of today. All the other episodes we're going to do about diving into Monero, it really is about what the tech does right now. Dandelion Plus Plus doesn't do a whole lot. It really don't. It opens up the opportunity to do so much more. And when people look into Monero, when people look into how it does this or that, it's kind of confusing on purpose. Dandelion Plus Plus is probably the least confusing thing about it, on purpose. Bulletproofs, they were needed. They were going to happen eventually, right? And that's fine. But this Dandelion, this is a whole new ballgame. A whole new ballgame. And I'm here for it, man. I'm glad I can be here for it. And I hope you're here for it too. Alright, everybody. I really do appreciate you guys for showing up, coming in, and listening to me rant on about Monero's main two ways we get major privacy through proofs. Bulletproofs and Dandelion Plus working together to secure us, save us, and keep us moving. Now I want to go ahead. I'm going to do the exit music, but I got some stuff to show you while that's going on, so please stay in.
Yo, did you think you know? Did you think you hold? Did you think something new? That's the goal, to see from a new degree and get the change your mind needs to find something new. Life suddenly is easy for many, but when a wall appears, sometimes up is all you see. So let 3D guide to the side, yo, where there's a door though. Just be careful on your way out, for the first step is a do-si-do. A little bit Linus with something different, it's almost like he's something else. And regardless of maybe, perhaps it was that missing piece you was needing. Maybe it was that simple message you was searching. Definitely it's just in different time for defraying our mental mind state, separating us from our own mental mind tank. Boom goes the blast of thought. Boom goes the last spark with part. Boom goes the mental mind tank. Don't your perspective hit on the way out. Don't let your directive stop you when you doubt. Don't let the dire detection stop you from being getting excited, so the photons are delighted. Don't hesitate so we can line up the hash rate. Let me surmise the time, submit the rate, and reduce the face while we mine our major bets. Crypto technology like cryptographic money, while hashing your life into a set of QRs. It doesn't matter, cause this was 3D changes perspectives. Thank you for joining the show. Please return next time for a new roll of perspective. Thank you for joining the show. Please return next time for a brand new perspective. Of perspective. Thank you for joining the show. Please return next time for a brand new perspective. Thank you for joining the show. Please return next time.